Well, greetings. Here we are, week 13 of business law. We're in November. There's a chill in the air. The leaves are turning. Wait a minute. No, we're in San Diego. We went from 80 degrees to 78 degrees, and there's probably one tree on campus that has the leaves turned. So not that big of an event here in Southern California with the change of seasons, but nonetheless, we are near the end of the semester. We are in November. Thanksgiving is coming up upon us, and we're in week 13 and really close to the finish line. This particular week, we covered two chapters in the text. The first chapter is chapter 40. Chapter 40 addresses corporate directors, officers, and shareholders. When a corporation is up and running, after it's been formed, you have a group of people who are the shareholders. They own the shares of stock, the equity of the corporation. They have ownership, and they're the people after the corporation is formed and running. They're the people who elect or appoint the directors, and the directors are the people who sit on the board of directors, and they oversee the grand vision, the big picture of the company as far as how it's going to be run. You got the directors, and the directors are the people who hire the officers of the corporation, the CEO, the CFO, and those are the folks who are hired as employees to run the day-to-day operation of the corporation. In a perfect world, you got the shareholders and the directors and the officers all getting along, working harmoniously to make the corporation a great success financially. That's in a perfect world. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, and a lot of times you can get some antagonistic relationships among these three groups of people. So it's an interesting dynamic, but we'll be talking about those three separate and distinct groups, which there can also be overlap too. Sometimes shareholders, officers, and directors, it can be all the same group of people in a small corporation. But that's chapter 40. Chapter 41 deals with mergers and takeovers, when companies merge, either through a consolidation or through a share exchange or through a merger. Any one of those things. We see mergers all the time. Every year I print out a list of all the companies that have merged, huge corporations that combine their resources and their assets together to be a very big company. And so we'll be speaking and looking at that list of some of the most recent mergers over the last several months that have occurred and what all occurs in a merger and takeover. So that pretty much wraps it up for this introduction to week 13. We'll have one more video dealing with week 14. But before we close this out, need to speak to you and let you know about this week's lawyer joke. And hang on. Oh my goodness. Well, two lab scientists were talking to each other at a convention. And one lab scientist was feeling there and says, hey, had a new breakthrough here. We no longer use rats in our experiments. We now use attorneys instead of rats. What? Are you kidding me? Says the other guy. Why in the world would you use attorneys in your experiments instead of rats? And he says, well, there's basically three reasons. Number one, there's a whole lot more attorneys out there than there are rats. And number two, we like to use attorneys because the lab technicians won't get so emotionally attached to them like they would to the rats. And thirdly, when it comes to attorneys, there's just something rats won't do in an experiment, but the attorneys will. So there you go. Once again, attorneys held in very high esteem. Have a great day. Have a great week. We'll see you in class. Bollinger out.